You're most welcome here on Wesley Impact as we highlight some of the top shows over the year that was. It's often said a mother's love cannot be measured. In one of our viewer favourites for this week, we revisit the story of Carolyn Steadman, a foster carer who works for Wesley Mission in Sydney. Amid raising 6 of her own children in the family home, Carolyn and her husband have cared for more than 60 foster kids in the last 3 decades. Carolyn has an extraordinary story to tell. Let's take a look together at how a call to action through one local radio ad changed her life forever. Carolyn Steadman, I'm sure you must have lots and lots of story to share, but the first thing I want to ask you is, how did all that begin?
Well, it all began, as you say, more than 30 years ago, and I was standing in my kitchen one day with my own first two children playing around, and they were at that stage were about 4 and 2, and I heard a community services radio announcement, and they were talking about the need for foster carers, and my ears pricked up and I thought, I like staying at home with kids. That's something I could do.
You haven't just stayed at home with kids, you had 6 of your own.
Yes, I did go on to have another few.
I'm not being to be rude, it's a fantastic amount of children. You had 6, and then you've really committed yourself to do this over the years. Can I ask you where's the resources to do that and the capacity to care?
Well, I was brought up by a very caring mother, so I learned from her the art of caring, and I think when I first started doing foster care and when I first started having my own children, I didn't really plan to have a very large family and do foster care, but I think over the years I realised this was a gift that God had given me, and yes, and I enjoyed doing it. And so it's not hard. I mean, there are times when it is hard, but it's something that I can do. And I think when you've got a gift from God, God expects you to use it. And some of my friends say to me, when are you going to retire, Carolyn? And I say to them, what does the Bible say about retirement? Nothing in there. You just keep doing it as long as you can do it.
So is that really the secret of what motivates you then, that sense of responding?
Definitely now it is, yes.
Now, looking back, what would you say gives you the most satisfaction out of doing this?
Just caring for a child and giving them a period of their life where they're loved and stable and secure, I think. Because when children leave us, children who've been in out-of-home care and they leave us, they often don't go to good circumstances. They might be restored to their parents, and although doctors looking after them, it doesn't always work. Yeah.
So it can be tough. Susanna Wesley, I know when she brought up her large family, including John and Charles Wesley, gave them a certain amount of time each week that was just theirs.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and I think that's saying the same kind of thing, real attention and real focus. And this can be for the first time for a child, can't it?
There's one thing I try to do. David and I do a lot of out-of-home care for babies, and I try to always remember every time I pick the baby up out of the bassinet, which is many times a day for feeding and changing and all those sort of needs, I try to remember to pray for them, that they will know God in their lives.
We're going to be back with you in a moment. We're going to talk a little bit more then about how that things, but we're delighted in the Wesley Dalmar family to have people like yourselves, Carolyn. But now I'd like to introduce you to today's performer. Sheila Mapofu is a new artist on our Wesley Impact family, and she's soon to be a mum of her own. She's chosen a song that really relates to Carolyn's story of care and compassion for others. So here's Sheila with Everyone Needs a Little.
Come lay your wesleymission.org.au provides a comprehensive look at the work of Wesley Mission. On our website, you'll find information about the wide range of services we provide for you and for your community. You can find all our contact details, published articles, our press releases, and our community research reports. There's more information about Keith Garner and our Christian faith. Visit wesleymission.org.au for more information about all the work of Wesley Mission.
That was a lovely song, wasn't it? If you want to know more about Sheila's music, you can visit our website this week. We always do that with all our guests. Find the information there. Now, we're back with our guest, Carolyn Stedman. Look, it's a delight to talk to you. She's sharing with us something of 30 years of caring for kids in foster care. How have those children changed for you during that time? Have they always been, you talked about babies a moment ago, have they always been babies? Have they been children of different circumstances?
Mostly we do babies, but we have had children as old as 13, and we've had sibling groups too, where there might be a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Yeah, not always babies, but they have changed. When we first started fostering, we didn't see any drug addict babies, but most babies we get now are drug addict babies and struggle for their first few months of survival because of heroin addiction, or at the moment we've got a baby who is cannabis and alcohol addicted. And it's a hard few months of life getting off drugs.
It's hard for people to even begin to imagine what that's like in a baby, you know, but I suppose it's something you've become aware of. And
yes, there's a lot of symptoms that go with, unpleasant symptoms that go with a drug-addicted baby, like a temperature that spikes, like trembling, a high-pitched scream, vomiting, diarrhoea. It's a whole lot of unpleasant things. They don't have all of them necessarily, but some babies do.
I suppose I want to really ask two questions. First of all, I want to ask, what impacts this had on your 6 children and yourself, your husband, as a family, doing this?
It has impacted greatly. Our children, when we've had babies who are really unsettled, when all of our children were at home, they used to have 15-minute shifts to rock the bassinet to try and get the baby to sleep. So one would go in for 15 minutes and then come out, and another one would go in, and they'd all take it in turns until the baby was asleep. And there were times that our children probably resented having an extra baby in the family that was so needy. I mean, we'd go to the park, for instance, and the baby would be needy and need to go home for a rest, but everybody else's kids were still at the park and mine would have to come home. So there were times like that. But I think it's made them strong, resilient human beings. I think my daughters and my sons, yes, all of them had a very realistic picture of what it was like to have a new baby come into the house. So when they had their own children, they knew what it was going to be like, and the thought that babies sleep in between their 4-hourly feeds is a bit of a myth often. So that they knew all of that. Yeah, so it gave them good life skills and experience.
I mean, I like the candour of saying, you know, in fact, it would be challenging, because it's bound to be, isn't it? Because affection can go all around, but you're spreading it in a big circle here, aren't you?
We are. And one of the hardest things, I think, was saying goodbye to the children. Very hard on our own children, who we'd all go inside. The baby would go off in a car to a new location, and we'd all come inside and cry. And we all would have bonded sometimes with that child strongly, and sometimes we had children for 2 years, 2.5 years. Yes, that child's like a family member after a period of time like that, and you're saying goodbye knowing that you're probably never going to see them again.
And certainly, it's a family business if there's a roster and everybody has to work out,
Absolutely.
What am I on now?
Yes, I mean, people talk to me about being a foster mother, but we were a foster family.
Sure. Look, I want to ask you how it's influenced your faith as well.
It's strengthened my faith. I just really know that I'm doing what God wants me to do. And I feel very strongly about that. There's a song we sing at our church, and it's got a line in it that says, "Break my heart for what breaks yours." And every time I sing it, I get a pain in my chest. I just know that that's God speaking to me through that song, and that's what I'm doing. I'm looking after children because I know it breaks his heart to see babies who are drug addicted or abused or, yeah.
But it makes such a big difference to think that you can actually change the context of that child's life simply by doing ordinary, loving, kind things and caring for the child.
Yes, just for a short period of time in its life. I sometimes hope that they have this nice memory that at one stage of my life I was loved and nurtured and cuddled and kissed and, yes, valued.
Caroline, a highlight, one highlight.
Oh, so many highlights. One highlight. A little boy came to us. It took the department quite a long time to find out who his father was. His mother wasn't able to care for him. His father happened to be a builder, a 55-year-old builder living in Alice Springs. He was phoned and they said, "We think we have a child of yours in Sydney." He said he had no children. He was unmarried. He nearly fainted, he told me. He came to Sydney and I met the baby. I spent 3 days teaching him everything I knew about bringing up a child, and he went back to Alice Springs, and I don't know how much time I've got, but we actually visited him in Alice Springs about a year later, and this dear little boy living with his dad, living on a mattress on the floor with no sheet on it, but he taught me a lot about, I always thought I did it the right way, but there's lots of ways to bring up a child.
So that really is a marvellous story of bringing people together again. Caroline, it's been a delight to talk to you. We'll be back in a moment.
Visit wesleymission.org.au/impact for more on today's program. There you'll also find selected video clips to download and forward to a friend, information about past episodes and guests, and you'll also have unlimited access to the articles in Wesley Impact magazine. You can also find out more about Keith Garner and the wider work of Wesley Mission. Visit wesleymission.org.au/impact for more on today's program and for all the content available online.
As we've seen and heard from today's show, investing time and love into children has lifelong lasting effects. Let's take a look at our Aunties and Uncles programme that's giving both mentors and children a chance to shine.
Well, before Wesley Mission came along as our fairy godmother, we were in dire straits. Aunties and Uncles would have closed after nearly 40 years. And probably about 5,000 children have gone through the program. So, and it's a great program because it keeps the children in the family.
I've got family, but haven't spoken to them for 20 years. And the girls needed family, and also my mum passed away only recently 4 years ago, so I needed something more for the kids. So yeah, so I sort of like Googled them on the internet and off I went. And I mean, our world now is totally different. I mean, we're reattached also with my family, so we've just got this massive family base now, which is really good, and they're beautiful people, we love them. I mean, they look forward to every visit, you know, and I mean, I suppose it gives us a break as well, and they get to enjoy different things, and I wouldn't have life any other way now. It's beautiful.
They're just great fun to be with. They're full of activity all the time. They're on the go all the time. And we really have fun.
When I first joined Aunties and Uncles, I wasn't even sure whether I'd be accepted because I was an older person and I was single, and you know, it was all about families, but I really don't think that matters. This has been an added dimension to my life, definitely. A lot of joy. Absolute lot of joy. Yes, she's the niece that I don't have.
She means a lot. She's absolutely wonderful. We've been so many places and I've learned so much from her. Yeah, it does give you a lot of self-esteem and confidence knowing that you have got someone there, and it's also another sort of moral support branch that you've got there. So, you know, in case your mum or your dad isn't there, I'm really happy that the Wesley Mission did take over it, because it's giving the opportunity to other young people and all the children and that to have another person there for them and to make them feel really special.
There's so many links in what we're talking about today, and it really centres around that word need. And I'm quite sure in the ministry of Jesus, when I read the Gospels, that Jesus reached out to people and understood the immensity, the whole welter of need that exists in the world in which he came. So it's really an important theme. But there's a theme also that's been happening all through Mark's Gospel from the very beginning. And that is that people crowded in to see Jesus, that they had many different needs. Very, very early on in the Gospels, we see there a sense in which the people were so keen to see him that they crowded at the back door. Well, later on in the ministry of Jesus, we find that he fed a great crowd of people. We're told that that the needs were great. So many people were coming to him that they didn't have enough to eat. But the reality is also that when he went across the lake, there was also the incidence of people who knew what it was to actually reach out and find that they had need. We read actually the words, and let me read them for you if I can. So many people were coming to him. Wherever he went, into villages, towns or countryside, they placed the sick in the marketplaces. They begged him to let them touch him out the edge of his cloak. So the need was great. They brought people to Jesus. So it wasn't only their own need, it was the need of other people. And one of the things that I think that tells us is quite clearly Jesus responds to need, because we know that God reaches out to people in need. We also are conscious of this need in real ways. John Donne, of course, is the one who said, "No man is an island." He once said this also: "Oh, God never suffers to think that we can stand by ourselves and not need you." We all have need, because need paves the way for response. Think about that in your life for just a moment. Need is real. And sometimes it's need that brings us to God. We've seen already in an interview in this program that people respond to need. But need exists in all our lives in many, many different ways. And the way that God reaches out to us is not only to satisfy that need, to meet that need, to fulfill that need in a real outcome in our lives, is the very fact that we can take it to him. We don't have to play games. We don't have to be secret about the needs in our lives. God reaches out to us. And the truth is that we may have many and differing needs. The crowds came to Jesus because they had the need to eat. There were then people who so followed him that they wanted to hear what he'd got to say. There were families who had needs in their own lives, but also in the needs of their own family, that they brought the people to him. All these different kinds of need. You see, there is no need that is actually too great for him to be able to deal with. There is nothing that is beyond his reach, beyond his ability to reach into our lives and care. It was a crowd of 5,000 people. Well, that's an immense crowd. How could you possibly feed them? We know the story of how Jesus did actually feed them. People were brought on mats and placed there for Jesus to reach out and to touch people. That was also within his capacity to actually reach out and bring help and bring healing and bring peace into people's lives. Now, I don't know what your need is. I can know a little bit of my own need, but I know this. When we come to God, he doesn't ignore those needs. He sees them for what they are. He reaches out and he can make a real and meaningful difference into our lives. I like Carolyn's story when I asked her about the difference it makes. But it was hard. For her, she had to let go of children. Only for a short time was she able to do something. But she knew it made a real difference. I can assure you of this, that when God comes into our lives in Jesus Christ, he does make a real difference. His grace and his power, his sense of being able to turn things around through forgiveness and grace makes such a difference to our lives. We are turned round 180 degrees to point in a new and meaningful direction. And just as it was a very small offering of bread and fishes that were offered to Jesus, and he was able to change it, so he's able to take whatever it is that we offer to him and make it something that is great and used splendidly in his work. Well, whatever the need is that you have, I hope that somehow through our program you're able to pick up the message that we're wanting to communicate to you, and that is that God has compassion, God has care. He reaches into our lives and he offers something real and meaningful, and you can find that You can know that because no need is too great for him to deal with.
If you would like to know more about today's topic or for more on Keith's message, contact Keith by writing to Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
Thanks for joining us today. It's amazing to see how Carolyn's commitment to all the children in her care has been grounded by her faith in God. My prayer is that you too use your gifts to spread God's love through action. Next week, we meet a man who's done just that through the invention of the bionic ear. Graham Clark's story is one you won't want to miss. Until next week, goodbye and God bless you.
They say that where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. And your heart stays where you hide your greatest love. Now you can leave that love on earth where thieves may steal tomorrow, or you can take it to that hiding place above. There's a treasure